How d'Arco. Hello, dudes, dudettes, duders, and everyone in between, and welcome to How to Do Everything So You Don't Have to, the show where we teach you how to think like a producer. We recently had an interesting challenge. One of our clients wanted us to do a shoot in Europe with essential components happening in Ireland and Spain. It was a really quick turnaround with only 4 days to prepare for the shoot. Not only was prep time limited, but the schedule was dense with quick little flights from city to city throughout the week. Reviewing the brief, it quickly became clear that checked luggage wasn't really an option because of the risk that it might get separated from the production once the airlines got their hands on it. This meant that I had to be able to carry every piece of gear that was considered mission critical on me at all times. That's no small task. Lucky for me, I'm an incredible producer. In this video, we'll go over the gear we used, the thought process behind the decisions we made, and what we'd do differently if we were given a similar assignment in the near future, particularly how we would avoid that cute little $1,000 mistake halfway through the production. One of the sweetest perks of being a filmmaker is that you get to travel, and filmmaking has taken me around the world, from Japan to Hong Kong and China to Africa and all across Europe. This video will absolutely help you prepare for the day that you get invited for a production overseas. Depending on where you are in your career, that might feel far off, but trust me, you shouldn't be surprised if it happens sooner than you're expecting. Simply put, it's statistically unlikely that your town has everything necessary to create all the types of art that you might be commissioned to create. So go ahead and get your passport ready. I'd hate for you to lose a job because you don't have a passport and someone else in your talent pool does. The day that you have to board a plane for production is coming, and the best thing you can do is be ready for it. When it does arrive, always remember the cynically co-opted, often satired anti-wisdom of the Brits when they were sitting on the cusp of World War II. Keep calm and carry on. Your luggage. Checking bags is all well and good, and when you get to a certain scale of production, it absolutely makes sense. But when you're doing smaller projects, the risk of checked baggage often outweighs the benefit. Not all luggage travels on the plane with you, especially if there's a connecting flight, which means that not all the luggage lands with you at the airport. Sometimes it doesn't land at the same time. Sometimes it doesn't land ever. I've had checked bags get lost, and even more troubling, I've had checked bags arrive hours before me and found them sitting next to the carousels out on the floor as if they'd been placed there by hand, waiting for anyone to grab them and leave. Forget the cost of gear. If you can't replace it same day for a shoot you're doing, you're losing a client when you lose your luggage, which is way more expensive than any camera. So our strategy is to carry on what we consider mission critical and rent everything necessary to make the production sing. If you're planning to carry on all the gear you need to deliver a project, you first need to assess what the minimum viable product is. That is to say, what's the least you can deliver to hit the specs the client requested so that you can get paid for the work you're doing. Only when you know the absolute least you have to do to deliver to spec can you start building out your kit. When traveling entirely carry-on, we limit ourselves to one Pelican 1510 and one backpack. The backpack we travel with is a bit over regulation size for the personal bag, but we've never been stopped. That said, we expect that one day we will be stopped, and when that day comes, we'll check the 1510 and keep the backpack as our carry-on. So let's start loading those two bags. For this project, we had to capture 2 speakers reading a script directly to camera. At least that's what the client requested. But that's not what they wanted. It was a classic James Cameron situation. We'll get back to what they actually wanted in a moment, but for the minimum viable product, we adhere to the brief, not to what we read between the lines. Obviously, we need a camera and a lens. For this project, the Blackmagic Pixis was going to be our A camera for a couple of reasons. First, the 4x3 sensor plate lends itself well to horizontal and vertical crops, and at this point, we assume all of our clients will want social pulls, so we shoot for horizontal and vertical. Second, it delivers a really nice image, especially when paired with the Nisi Athena prime lenses, which is what we shot on. We took the 35 and 85mm lenses and left the rest of the kit in the States. The thinking there was that the 35 would be wide enough for 2 speakers, even if the shooting space was a little on the tight side, and the 85 is a terrific beauty lens in the event that we had to grab some B-roll or close-ups. And I can tell you right now, if I'm going through the hassle of getting on a plane and traveling to exotic locations that I only get to visit once every 2 decades, I'm shooting some B-roll and some photos. We couldn't risk being without power, so we brought a wall plug with all the different European adapters, a couple of Sony batteries that plug directly into the camera, and a D-tap to Pixis power adapter with the intent to rent V-mount batteries when we got there. Now, we consider redundancy to be mission critical. Let me say that again. Redundancy is mission critical. Let me say that again. Redundancy is mission critical. While the Pixis records proxies alongside the raw footage, that doesn't count as redundancy because it's all being written to the same drive. If that drive fails, you've lost everything. So we packed the Blackmagic Video Assist to use as a director's monitor and backup recorder, and of course batteries as well as media for both the camera and the video assist. Now, a pretty picture isn't worth much if there isn't any sound to go with it. The nice thing about sound is that there are lots of compact solutions. Sure, a lav mic doesn't sound as good as a shotgun, but it'll get you across the finish line and is way easier to transport and set up. For this shoot, we went with the DJI Mic 2 wireless transmitter and a pair of Saramonic pin mics. We went with the Mic 2 because it has remote-controlled local record. That is, you can trigger record and cut without touching the body pack, but it doesn't rely on wireless functionality for recording the actual audio. That said, it does have a receiver pack that carries the audio signal, and we plugged that directly into the camera, giving us backups of the audio on both the Pixis and the video assist. The final edit of this project was due before I got back to the States, which meant I needed a laptop to do the editing as we shot. And here's where we get into that $1,000 mistake. So I was kind of sort of hoping my old MacBook Pro had the juice to edit the footage as we went, if we baked proxies. Wrong. It might have been possible with a bit more time for post, but that's not the way this show was built. We simply needed more power than what I brought with me to deliver the cut on time. Now, I live in Glendale. There are 2 Apple stores within walking distance of my house. This is not the case in Dublin, or Alicante, or Benidorm, or Sutton Crossing, or Altea, or Calpe, or Lalfastel. Look, man, I've been trying to say the name of that town since I was 15, and I still can't get it past my teeth. Lalfastel. Anyway, they don't have an Apple store there. With options as limited as they were, you get it where you can, which in this case was the airport between flights. And they don't tell you this in school, but electronics are way more expensive in Europe than in America. Furthermore, the dollar ain't doing so hot these days, which meant that we massively overpaid for the processing power we needed to get this edit in on time. Massively, like by $1,000. And that, kids, is why you maintain a line of credit. Unless you can afford to lose the client, you need a safety net for when a mission-critical purchase comes up, and your only option is what the dude at the airport tech kiosk has sitting around. And you will pay his prices when this happens. Not your prices, not market prices, his prices. The shoot was meant to be scripted, so we would also need a travel teleprompter. In this case, we went with the small rig teleprompter, which took up about half the 1510. Expensive, but necessary. We also needed a monitor for the teleprompter, some batteries, and plenty of HDMI. At this point, you're seeing what I'm seeing. The kit's pretty full, and we haven't even addressed the fact that the client doesn't want what they asked for. They think they want on-screen talent to read a teleprompter and deliver the specifics of a press announcement word for word as marketing wrote it. Now, I know the company and I know their audience. The particular verbiage of the announcement isn't nearly as important as the trust they build by making the announcement. And they're not going to build trust by staring down the barrel of a lens and reciting corporate approved talking points. What the client actually wants is a casual 2-person conversation with 3-camera coverage. The thing is, I don't tell them that because they don't need to know. What I want is for the team to write the script as if it's the only thing we're doing, for the talent to study the script as if they have to nail it 1-to-1, and then to record that exact information on first camera roll. Once we've done all that, my plan is to throw the script away and have them do it as a conversation, but only after 2 things have already happened. First, I want the entire script recorded, knowing that we will not release a single frame of them looking down the barrel of a lens reading a script, but I do want that recorded, knowing that we can cover the footage with B-roll if we need to hit the specifics 1-to-1. Second, I want all that information absolutely fresh in their brains as it was written when they go into the casual conversation, because that will keep it on brand and help ensure that they hit every beat they have to hit. Like I said, I'm an incredible producer. Here's the problem. I'm not carrying a triple kit on my back for a week of production. So that means we're getting into rentals and staffing. Rentals kind of exploded on this production, which is fine because once we were staffed up, we had a car. Suddenly, we'd moved from a single camera and 2 wireless mics to 3 cameras all shooting 6K, a pair of shotgun mics, multiple panel lights, and all the bits and bobs necessary to tie it together. With a crew of 3, including me, we had what we needed to land the project in a way that exceeded client expectations. And that's where I like to hang out. So, what did we learn from this project, and how can you save time and money from our mistakes? First, take the processing power you need with you. When you're budgeting a project, it's really easy to focus on the camera because everything funnels through the lens. So you want the best funnel the production can afford. Because there's so much more flexibility in post, it's easier to miscalculate the amount of juice needed, especially when working in a crunch. Don't make the mistakes we made. Our second tip won't help you with money so much as comfort when you finally reach your deathbed. Remember that you are a vessel for experiences as well as production. If you're traveling for a project, your priority obviously should be the production. But you should also document the project for your own memories, and you can do this with minimal footprint. For example, I took the Ektar H35N with me, a camera that we recently gave a glowing review, and I shot personal snaps throughout the trip. These are some of the best photos I've taken recently, and the cost of the production was 4 ounces of camera that I kept in my breast pocket. But I went one further and kept a DJI mic pinned to my lapel. As I rambled and roamed across Europe, I kept an audio journal of my thoughts and experiences, and I also recorded ambient sounds of environments I was in. The client got exactly what they requested and more, and I walked from the production with a collection of sights and sounds that I may never get to experience again in my lifetime. Like I said, this won't help you with your budget, but when you are old and gray, looking back on a life well lived, this is the stuff that actually matters. Third, trust your gut, but only if your gut has earned your trust. We built this entire production on an assumption that I was smart enough to give the client what they wanted, not what they asked for. Had we done what they asked, we would have gotten paid for the job. But I don't care about the jobs we're doing. I care about future jobs. I care about the growth we're afforded because of intuitive thinking. If there was a potential for growth that wasn't realized because I lacked the capacity to pursue it, I've cost our business money. Look, media will be produced. Corporations will get their signals out to customers. The infrastructure for film production exists. Who takes purchase on that infrastructure really boils down to who has the intelligence and the willpower to deliver a product that doesn't just meet client expectations, but exceeds it. And lucky for me, I'm a really good producer.